Hi class, welcome to week 6. So one of the things I wanted to do is talk about Vonnegut's story this week and use it as a way to talk about not only setting, but also the theme of this week. So let's start with setting first. Now, in contemporary America, our ideas on what equality is going to be much different than Vonnegut's. Do I think it's too much different? Probably not. But you have to consider where he is coming from. Look at his history and background. He is a World War II veteran. He is writing this story in a tumultuous time period of American history. And so I think all this stuff kind of colors and frames the way he creates the setting. Another thing to consider is whether or not he intended this to be a dystopia. Are we supposed to read the story and think, wow, this is a terrible place, I would never want to live there? Or are we supposed to look at this place and say, this is something we should aspire to? Now, in terms of my own personal opinion, I think the way the author describes the world and all the various handicaps the characters have in order to make them equal, it does not sound like a world that we would want to live in, nor that the author would want us to think is the preferred version of America, right? Or the world. So that's just something to kind of consider is what does the author feel about their setting? How are they trying to depict it? Especially in something like this, which is kind of in the science fiction, dystopian fiction genre, where they are not writing about contemporary America or even contemporary America in Vonnegut's time. He's writing this sort of alternate universe type thing. So we have to consider, when he's creating this world, how does he want us to feel about this? This story reminds me in a lot of ways of a Terry Gilliam movie in the 80s called Brazil, which is also a dystopian future where the world is very bureaucratic and Kafkaesque, much like Vonnegut's story. And in both, the filmmaker Gilliam and the author Vonnegut, I think, want us to view these settings as something to be scared of in a way, and that maybe in terms of their message, maybe they're trying to warn us about something. And now that gets us to equality and our conceptions and notions of equality. And so that's something I start to kind of think about when I look at Vonnegut's story, is really trying to consider, well, what is he trying to say about equality? Is he saying that equality is a bad thing? Is he saying equality is something that we can never achieve and we shouldn't try to get there, because when we do try to get there, we kind of go down these not so great roads? And so these are the things that I can kind of consider when reading this and thinking about the setting. Another thing I like to consider about this story is who's the good guy. Obviously, earlier in the class, we learned that Vonnegut always wants us to have someone to root for. And so if we look at this story, I think you would imagine the titular character is the person that we need to root for. That is something I'm always kind of going back and forth about. When I was very young and read the story, obviously, Harrison is sort of the tragic hero of this in a way, right? And now looking back, I think in some ways maybe it could be argued there is no sort of good guy in that sense, because would you really want to live under a world where Harrison would be the leader? I don't know if I would want to. I don't know if both options don't seem so great. That's what I'm basically saying. Now, do I think Vonnegut violated his own rule? No, not at all. I think that Harrison is the person that we're rooting for, just to clear things up. But in terms of who is the hero of the story, who do we want to win? I think that's where things get dicey, because in my mind, now that I'm a little bit older, I'm kind of thinking about it from the perspective of I don't know if I want either party to win in a sense, because I don't think that um, both worlds would be something I would want to live in. Now, so when going to this, I think the setting is such a crucial part to really kind of deal with. And as you can see, I've been sort of talking about the theme all along when we're talking about the setting and the different sort of, I guess you can call them factions, even though it's kind of one person versus the world in a sense. But in terms of the ways in which people view the world or what the world should be like, I think that's where the theme of this week can kind of come into play, or at least that's where I see it coming into play. And so, as you're reading the story or contemplating the story afterward, one of the things I would really try to consider is to think about, what is Vonnegut saying about this world of equality, and what is he saying about equality in general, because I think those questions are really important and will kind of help us understand how he wants us to view the setting. All right, so thank you so much for this past couple weeks. We're nearing the end. I've talked to a lot of you outside of class, whether that's over the phone or email. And so if there's anything I can do these last couple weeks, please let me know. We're going to kind of get to the end, and there's a lot, like 2 big assignments kind of coming up. So I want to make sure that you don't kind of drop the ball or stuff doesn't happen so that you can't complete those assignments to the best of your abilities. So if there's anything I can do to help facilitate the last couple weeks of class, please let me know. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.